have been abandoned for decades, its walls bearing witness to unspeakable tragedies and unending suffering. Despite its history, the hospital still stood, a haunting monument to the horrors that had taken place within its walls. As I stepped inside, a chill ran down my spine. The air was thick with the scent of decay and death. I could feel the weight of the hospital's dark past bearing down upon me. I began to explore, my footsteps echoing off the walls. Every step seemed to creak and groan, as if the hospital itself was protesting my presence. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on me from the shadows. I stumbled upon a room filled with rusted medical equipment, the tools of a bygone era. In the center of the room, a single hospital bed stood, its sheets stained with blood and other unidentifiable fluids. I approached it cautiously, feeling a sense of dread building in my chest. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper in my ear, "You shouldn't be here." I spun around, but there was no one in sight. The whisper seemed to come from all around me, echoing off the walls. I tried to flee, but my feet felt heavy, as if rooted to the spot. The whisper grew louder, more urgent. "You shouldn't have come here. Now you'll never leave." And then, the lights went out. I was plunged into darkness, the only sound the creaking of the old hospital's wooden floorboards. I was trapped at the mercy of the malevolent forces that lurked within these walls. As I stood there, paralyzed with fear, I realized that I was not alone. The hospital was home to something ancient and evil, something that had been awakened by my presence. And now it was coming for me. The flickering fluorescent light cast the abandoned Elmwood Hospital in an eerie greenish glow. Dust motes danced in the stagnant air, swirling around my ankles as I crept down the deserted hallway. This wasn't exactly how I pictured spending my Saturday night, but a hefty bet with my friends had landed me here, armed only with a flashlight and a pounding heart. Elmwood had shut down years ago, rumors swirling around its closure like the dust in the air. Suicides, hauntings, whispers of unethical experiments. The place was a local legend. My mission? Spend 5 whole minutes inside. Piece of cake, right? Wrong. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the decaying building. Every shadow seemed to writhe, every rustle of leaves outside a potential threat. Then, I saw it. A figure, a woman in a faded white gown, standing motionless by a doorway at the end of the hall. Panic seized me, but morbid curiosity wrestled for control. Taking a deep breath, I inched forward, my flashlight beam trembling in my hand. The woman didn't move even as I drew closer. Her back was to me, her pale hair cascading down her shoulders. I reached out a tentative hand, my voice barely a squeak. "Hello?" The woman turned, my breath hitched. Her face was a canvas of wrinkles, her eyes hollow and lifeless, 2 dark pits beneath her wild hair. But the most horrifying detail? Her mouth. It was stretched wide in a silent scream, a grotesque parody of a human expression. Before I could react, the figure lunged. I screamed, stumbling back, the flashlight clattering to the floor. Darkness enveloped me, thick and suffocating. I scrambled back, bumping into something cold and solid. It yielded, and a bone-chilling moan erupted right beside my ear. I bolted. Heart hammering against my ribs, I didn't stop running until I burst out of the hospital doors. The cool night air a welcome shock. Behind me, Elmwood stood silent, bathed in the pale moonlight. Was it all a trick of the light, a figment of my overactive imagination? Maybe. But as I stumbled back to the car, a faint, chilling whisper seemed to echo on the wind, a silent scream trapped within the walls of Elmwood Hospital. Get out. That night I lost the bet, but something far more valuable, my naivety, was lost forever in the silent halls of Elmwood. The eviction notice was taped crookedly to the dusty glass door. Elmwood Hospital condemned, entry strictly prohibited. A shiver ran down my spine despite the summer heat. It wasn't the eviction notice that bothered me. Those were dime a dozen for a struggling photographer like myself. It was Elmwood itself, a looming Victorian monstrosity shrouded in overgrown ivy and a reputation darker than a moonless night. but for a decent shot of this architectural relic, the risk seemed worth it. Pushing open the creaking door, I stepped into a world frozen in time. Dust motes danced in the weak sunlight filtering through grimy windows, illuminating faded medical charts and abandoned gurneys. The air hung heavy with the smell of disinfectant and something else, a cloying sweetness that made my stomach churn. As I ventured deeper, a child's giggle echoed down the deserted hallway. My heart jumped. There was no way. Elmwood had been shut down for decades. Curiosity warred with caution, and curiosity won. Following the sound, I reached a large room, once a bustling nursery, judging by the faded murals of smiling babies on the walls. There in the center, a little girl materialized from thin air. She was dressed in a hospital gown, her blonde hair in braids tied with faded ribbons. She looked no older than 5, her eyes wide with a haunting sadness. "Hello," I croaked, my voice breaking the oppressive silence. She didn't answer, only tilted her head, her gaze flickering to something behind me. A cold dread washed over me as I slowly turned. Standing in the doorway, a tall, gaunt figure materialized. A woman, her white nurse's uniform tattered and stained, her face contorted in a chilling scowl. Her eyes, however, were the worst part. They were hollow voids, black pits radiating an unnatural darkness. The little girl whimpered, cowering behind a crib. The ghostly nurse lunged, her spectral form blurring. My scream died in my throat as I fumbled for my camera, snapping a picture just as the nurse reached for the girl. A blinding flash filled the room, and when my vision cleared, both figures were gone. I scrambled out of there, my heart hammering against my ribs. Back in my car, I stared at the photo on my camera screen. The nursery was empty, but on a chair in the corner, a faint outline of the little girl was visible. Her head turned in fear towards something just out of sight. That photo won me the photography contest, but the victory tasted like ash. Elmwood had claimed something more valuable than a winning shot. My peace of mind. The image of the ghostly nurse and the terrified child remained etched in my memory, a chilling reminder of the secrets that haunted the decaying halls of Elmwood Hospital.